It's a pleasure meeting, sitting.
Thank you very much.
Great. 3 years after the violent suppression of the nationwide NSAS protests in Nigeria against police brutality, the question in the mind of many Nigerians is, has police brutality ever ended in the country, or has it reduced in any form, sir? Your perspective, sir.
Police brutality has not ended in Nigeria and cannot end in Nigeria so soon, because police brutality is an integral part of the neo-colonial apparatus of the country. As the late Professor Aki said, the police bequeathed to Nigeria by the colonial regime was retained by the indigenous ruling class to continue to unleash violence on our people, because it was a colonial organization set up to suppress agitations by our people, collect taxes or extort money from our people via Vietnamese. So what happened in 1960 was the fact that the colonial ordinance, the police ordinance, became Police Act. Nothing changed. The culture of violence was further institutionalized in Nigeria under military rule. So, the military and the other security forces, including the police, continue to behave as an army of occupation, which is why the military guys talk about bloody civilians. So if we're going to reform the police, not as a Nigerian police force, but as a Nigerian police service to serve the Nigerian people, we must therefore take advantage of the relevant provisions of the law. 3 years down the line, police brutality has been on the ascendancy. But the beauty of it, for me, is that after the NSAS protest, young people in the country, and indeed all Nigerians, have become more conscious of their rights. Cases of police brutality or brutality by the military, by the state security service, and other forces are now exposed and reported in the social media. And the authorities are compared, particularly by the police authorities regularly respond to allegations of police brutality when they are backed by concrete evidence. Policemen and women who engage in police brutality are arrested and prosecuted by the police authorities. And for me, this is very commendable. So the challenge before Nigerians, therefore, is to ensure that we become more vigilant than ever before. Because as it is often said, vigilance is the price of liberty.
Now, sir, considering the government's response, I'm talking about the federal government response, I mean, how did the government's response in terms of the NSAS protests, both in terms of policy and action? What's your assessment?
No, the federal government was deliberately misled by security forces to believe that the young people who were protesting against police brutality had concluded arrangements to overthrow the Muhammadu Buhari regime. And the former president said it to the colossal embarrassment of the country that, oh, the NSAS protesters wanted to overthrow me. I mean, I was flabbergasted that the president could be made to arrive at such baseless conclusions. But having said that, of course, that explains the violent attack on the young people in Abuja, in Lagos, in Benin, in Ogbomoso, in Ibadan, in Port Harcourt and other places, where it was a case of shameful bloodletting, unwarranted. In Abuja, cars of young people were burnt. The government mobilized thugs, armed them to attack unarmed protesters. In Alausa here, a notorious thug in Lagos shattered vehicles of thugs to attack, to unleash violence on young people, unarmed people. But at the end of the day, right, the young people were able to repel them. It was only in Lekki where the young people were caught unawares in the dead of the night. The military shot and killed people. Some were injured, and at the end of the day, we're told that nothing happened. That the young people were lying. But between the 20th and 27th of October 2020, not less than 100 people were killed in Lagos. The government pathologist, the respected Professor Obafunwa, gave evidence before the Judicial Commission for Inquiry set up by Lagos State Government, and did disclose that about 99 dead bodies were picked in various parts of Lagos. Some of them were picked up from Lekki. In Ikoyi Correctional Center, not less than 20 dead bodies, because there was a riot. Since then, for the past 3 years, there are inmates who have been languishing in custody, and unless the Minister of Interior, Honorable Bumitunji Ojo, orders or ensures that scores of inmates whose case files were burnt in the Lagos High Court, in the Magistrate Court, during the NSAS protest, unless he intervenes urgently, those guys are going to remain in the prison indefinitely because their case files cannot be located. So, of course, I was just reading this morning that there are others who are also languishing in Kirikiri.
Exactly. In fact, we had reports that about 15 protesters who are arrested have been arbitrarily detained at the Kirikiri Medium Correctional Center and the Ikoyi Medium Security Correctional Center.
We're going to take up that. My colleagues and I, will ensure that we try to find out through the Ministry of Justice in Lagos State why those young people are still languishing in custody.
What lessons can be drawn from the NSAS protests, sir? And are there legal implications for both Nigerian legal system and the broader international?
No, a lot of lessons have been learned. The 28 out of 36 state government instituted or set up judicial commissions of inquiry. The reports have been submitted to the government. They have been partially implemented. The recommendations have been partially implemented in the majority of the states. So this is where the NSAS protesters, and indeed Nigerians, will have to demand for full implementation, where recommendations were made for payment of reparations. The governments will have to be pressurized to pay the money, where police officers and others were recommended for prosecution. We have to ensure that they're prosecuted. Where soldiers that took part in the reckless killing in Lagos have been indicted, they have to be prosecuted. The reports of the government, the white paper, will have to be published so that necessary lessons can be learned, so that we can know those who have been indicted. Furthermore, the governments will have to set up, the state governments will have to set up human rights committees or agencies in all the states, because that was one of the resolutions of the governors, that to put an end to police brutality in our states, we hereby resolve to set up human rights agencies in addition to the National Human Rights Commission. No state government, none, has implemented the resolution. I'm aware that the Lagos state government or the Lagos State House of Assembly passed a bill for the establishment of the Human Rights Agency for the state. I appeared before the committee during the public hearing, but that was the end of the matter. No state government even went that far. So, in marking the 3rd anniversary of the NSAS protest, we need to collectively demand for the establishment of human rights committees or agencies in all the states of the Federation to partner with the National Human Rights Commission to ensure that the rights of our people are respected. And one of the advantages or the gains of the protest is that Nigerians are now prepared to demand for their rights. Even when the government says you cannot protest, as you witnessed today, Nigerians are prepared to dare the government, to dare the police, and assert their rights. Recently, a young man died in Lagos in questionable circumstances. I'm talking of Mohbad.
Wow.
There were protests in many parts of the country, and in some countries where you have a large presence of Nigerians. So I am very happy that Nigerians are beginning to demand for their rights and assert their rights. And that is how to protect human rights in our country. But I want to challenge Nigerians, all Nigerians, particularly young people, to locate, as a matter of urgency, if possible today, to identify the chief magistrates in their areas, visit him or her and demand to know when visitations will be conducted into police stations, because by virtue of Section 34 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and Section 70 of the Police Establishment Act 2020, not less than once a month, the chief magistrate or a chief magistrate shall visit all the police stations in his or her magisterial district. During the visit, the magistrate is empowered by law to grant bail to suspect instanta or recommend that suspect be taken to court if there is reasonable suspicion, right, that a criminal offense has been committed, or order the release, unconditional release, of suspects who have no business in the police station. Mind you, during the visit, the chief magistrate is empowered to write reports. So if his or her report indicts a police officer over illegal detention or arrest of a citizen or any person in Nigeria, such an officer will be reported to the appropriate police authorities. In like manner, all other detention facilities, apart from police stations, all others, including the detention facilities of the State Security Service, the Armed Forces, EFCC, ICPC, NDLA, and others, will also be visited at least once a month by judges designated by the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Since this provision of the law has not been implemented, not been enforced since 2015, I have a case in court. I've had to sue the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court to carry out his duty under the law by designating the judges that will visit all other detention centers in the country. If this is done, if 4 police stations in Nigeria are visited at least once a month by chief magistrate, if all other detention facilities are visited once a month by designated high court judges, illegal arrest and illegal detention of citizens will be a thing of the past. So I am challenging Nigerians to move forward and enforce their rights under the law. Unless we are prepared to do this, the government will not do it for us. The other area, I'm also asking Nigerians to challenge the members of the National Assembly. I'm calling on Nigerians to ask for constituency meetings where legislators will be challenged. Members of the National Assembly will be challenged why they have not funded the Nigerian police to carry out the duties imposed on police authorities under the Police Act to ensure that every police station in Nigeria, and we're talking of about 5,000 police stations, every police station will have assigned to it a legal practitioner, a lawyer, to monitor the observance of human rights. Again, this provision of the law has not been implemented. We're also in court. to compel the National Assembly to provide funds for the police authorities to recruit not less than 5,000 lawyers to man the various police stations in the country, so that they will be in a position to ensure that human rights standards are maintained, so that no suspect is subjected to torture. No suspect will have their rights, no suspect will have his or her rights violated, contrary to the provisions of Chapter 4 of the Constitution on human rights, respect for human rights, as well as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure.